Okay, great. Well, good morning, everybody. It's very nice to see you all here in person and online. I'm Jesse Powell, and we're here today at the Providence Portland Cancer Center Auditorium for a very special memorial lectureship, and that is the Dr. Gilbert R. Lipschutz Lectureship. This is a lectureship that's focused on ways to balance medical skill, human values, ethics, and the pursuit of excellence in patient care within today's complex and changing care environment. The lectureship was founded in 1998 and held in honor of Dr. Gilbert Lipschutz, who had joined the gastroenterology clinic, which is now part of the Oregon Clinic, back in 1978. He was quickly recognized as one of the premier gastroenterologists in Oregon. He served as president of the Oregon Society of Internal Medicine from 1981 to 85. He was the Providence Portland Medical Center Teacher of the Year from 84 to 85 and Internist of the Year from 87 to 88. He had an enthusiasm and zest for life that carried over into his medical career. He listened keenly to colleagues and patients alike. He loved to teach, taught well, and was passionate about humanity and compassion. And it was this passion for medicine and teaching and his humanity that we named the annual Grand Rounds in Dr. Lipschutz's honor. The lectureship was established through contributions by the Lipschutz family, members of Gil's medical practice, colleagues, grateful patients, Providence Portland Medical Center, and generous donations to the Providence Portland Medical Foundation. And I also want to recognize Jackie Lipschutz, Dr. Lipschutz's widow, who's here in attendance with us today. Thanks for being here. And before I introduce our honored guest speaker for the Lipschutz Lectureship, I want to pause and acknowledge that this hospital and the Portland metro area rest on traditional village sites of the Multnomah, Wasco, Cowlitz, Cathlamet, Clackamas, bands of Chinook, Tualatin, Kalapuya, Molalla, and other tribes who made their homes along the Columbia River. Indigenous people created communities and summer encampments to harvest and enjoy the plentiful natural resources of this area for the last 11,000 years. Portland today is a community of many diverse Native peoples who continue to live and work here. We respectfully acknowledge and honor all Indigenous communities. We respect the work of Indigenous leaders and families and recognize their knowledge, creativity, resilience, and contributions. And now let me introduce Dr. Brodt, our 2024 Gilbert Lipschutz Memorial Lecture speaker. Dr. Brodt earned his medical degree from the University of Minnesota School of Medicine. He completed residency in the family medicine at the Seattle Indian Health Board in Seattle. Dr. Brodt is an associate professor in the Department of Family Medicine and the assistant dean of Native American Health at OHSU. He, I believe, still practices inpatient medicine at OHSU, as well as the Warm Springs Tribal Health Clinic. He's also the founding director of the OHSU Northwest Native American Center for Excellence. And I saw in his bio, beyond his clinical work, Dr. Brodt is a entrepreneur and creative pioneer. He and his wife founded a clothing company, GNU. And he's also founded a digital media nonprofit company called We Are Healers. We are so glad to have Dr. Brodt with us. Please join me in welcoming him for the Lipschutz lecture. Thank you, Dr.
Thanks for coming, everybody. Thanks for the coffee, too. I usually start with when I teach residents on the wards, because there aren't a lot of people that speak Ojibwe here in Portland. Actually, my daughter's like one of the most fluent speakers here. And so I would like to teach you guys how to say good morning. Okay. Ninagijawud. You say that? Ninagijawud. Good day, everybody. And then our word for coffee is Mukade Mashkiki Wabu, which is the black medicine water. And it's like that's like the emphasis of like the greats. This is some strong coffee, so it's che Mukade Mashkiki Wabu. It's good and it's strong. So yeah, let's dive in a little bit. Thank you so much for having me here. I like to keep conversations a little bit casual. I like to have things be a little bit more interactive. I'm not going to call on people a ton, but yeah, there will be some interactive things here. And we'll start with my disclosure. So I have no financial relationships to disclose, but I also like to disclose that the perspectives that I share and that we share as a center, like they're our own, they're my own. As well as I disclose that I do not speak for all Native people, and I do not speak for all underrepresented, marginalized, disenfranchised peoples as well. This is a photograph of me when I took my first faculty position at the University of Wisconsin. It's overlaid with the very first photo of in my family. And so this photo on the right part, that's actually my great grandma. I spent a ton of time with her as a kid. I love some of the photos I have of me on her lap and just being goofing around and lots of big smiles. This is a photo from a private collection. And so my grandmother was, or my great grandmother was removed from her home in northern Minnesota in the early 1900s. There was a pandemic or an epidemic that came through, and 5 of her siblings all died at the same time, as well as her mother. Her mother was 23 at the time that she died. My great grandma was 18 months old. And it was common practice at that time through the government and the religious systems to, even though she had family and everything like that, she was still removed and taken to a sister school. So this is a photograph of her on her practicum. At the sister school, they taught her to bake, not cook. They taught her to bake. They taught her to wash laundry, how to clean a house, and how to mend clothes. So she was taught in the domestic arts. And she was supposed to be, to grow up to be a nun, which she didn't, because I'm here. This is a photograph of the family that she would work for. I mean, this was the family she was assigned to. And they took a lot of pictures of her, but they were often from the back. So I don't really know if she was happy or if she was sad. I think they were really enthralled by her hair. But I have a number of these pictures. But again, oldest photograph of my family. And I just have to acknowledge that it was the educational system and the healthcare system and the government system, like 3 things that I am deeply invested and involved in right now, that are responsible for this. Okay, and this was a big moment in our family, right? Because we spoke multiple languages in our home. Okay, we spoke Swedish, we spoke Norwegian, we spoke Ojibwe, possibly some form of like French fur trader dialect that was going on in northern Minnesota at the time, as well as English. And it went down to 1 language in a very short amount of time. And I can like pinpoint it to a certain year, beginning of the 1900s, right then and there. And so I recognize that the system that I work for now has also created a lot of the challenges that we have experienced in our own family and our community. Now, I need to learn who's the expert in the room. What is this? It's a fish. Great. What kind of fish is it? It's in the grand category of char, which trout are in, but it's not a trout. Anybody know what kind of fish that is? Very close. It looks really close. It is not a steelhead. All right. So no, not a steelhead. This is a salmon. Okay. Does anybody know what kind of salmon it is? It is a Chinook. Is that because you know one kind of salmon, or is that because can you identify? Can you tell me why it's a Chinook salmon? Mm-hmm. Are there any other markings or anything that make you think that? Mm-hmm. Okay, here we go. So when I first got to Portland, I participated in an outreach program to a regional middle school. And they brought a bunch of kids into a classroom. And this was at a tribal community, like hours away from Portland. And the teacher comes up to me beforehand. They bring all these kids that are interested in science and to have them meet people who work in science careers. And the teacher comes up to me beforehand and says, "Don't worry, there's a boy, let's just call him Jimmy. Jimmy is sitting over off on the edge side. He doesn't mean any disrespect. He's just not that interested in school. So he'll sit over there, he'll look out the window, and he probably won't pay attention to what you said. It's nothing against you. Please don't be offended by it. I'm like, oh, it's okay, whatever. We talk, and I show this picture eventually, right? Because I do this when I go around to speak with youth all across the state or the region or the country, even, faculty people and other folks in presentations. If I ask this question in Portland, everybody knows it's fish. And I think the expert in a Portland classroom for kids, usually someone can identify that it's a salmon for a certain reason beyond a guess, okay? Well, when we're sitting in that class, this is where Jimmy stopped looking out the window and he looked over when I asked this question about what it was. So in the community I was in, everybody knew that it was a fish. Everybody knew that it was a salmon. And a lot of people knew that it was a certain type of salmon. But then Jimmy got engaged and he said, well, what that is a spring Chinook salmon. And he told me that it was a male. And he told me why it was a Chinook salmon. So he said, if you look at the mouth, like you're talking about, identifying the kind of fish, see that little black stripe on the bottom lip of its mouth, that's how I know it's a Chinook salmon. And if you go back to the fin on the bottom side at the end, you count the number of tines, that's how I know what sex the fish is. So that's how I know it's a male, because of the number of tines that are there. And I can tell you that it's a spring Chinook because if you look at the rocks and the pattern of the mud around the rocks, I know that that's in the Columbia River because that's what it looks like after the spring thaw happens and the waters recede. That's what the river looks like when you do that. And so I was just like, oh my gosh. It was this huge aha moment for me, right? Here we are in an educational system in the state of Oregon. So about 37% of American Indian kids graduate high school here. I don't think that's a problem with the kids. I think that's a problem with the educational system that we have. If 1/3 of the kids graduate from high school and 2/3 don't, maybe people are asking the questions to determine who is an expert incorrectly. Because this kid was deemed as being disinterested, not good at school, sitting off to the side, yet he was truly the expert in the room and taught everybody that day about this fish. He was bored. That's what he was. He was bored to tears. And someone was just like, oh, well, he's a fisherman. No, he's a scientist. And he was able to take what he had learned in the community and not only be able to get to the right answer, but to walk the entire class through how and why. That was impressive. And then there's one little girl in the class who was like, I didn't know any of that kind of stuff, but I do know. And I don't know if you guys can see like right here, they're like, but I do know that whoever caught that fish was wearing extra tough boots, because that's the print of an extra tough boot. So anyway, that's my fish story, okay? And so what I do is I work in the space of American and Alaska Native tribal health workforce development, okay? And I have affirmations that we have founded our center upon because of things that I have heard leaders and educators and the people in control say over and over and over that I know to be false. And so I've taken all of those things and I flipped it on its head, right? So American Indian youth are knowledgeable, okay? They're curious. They're drawn to STEM fields. They make qualified applicants to health professional schools and college, and they're the future health leaders. The problem that I have is that when I talk to people in institutions is they believe the exact opposite all the time. And we know that not to be true. And so we lead from a strengths-based perspective. So what we do is we believe in a new generation of Indigenous health leaders that are going to help improve the care and the outcomes for all people, not just tribal people, okay? So we started the Northwest Native American Center of Excellence in 2017. We work to sustainably address the healthcare needs, again, of all people by increasing the number of Americans and Alaska Natives who are working in the health professions. We're guided by our approach to recruit, train, and retain American Indian and Alaska Natives because of those affirmations, lead from a strengths-based perspective and go into inspiration, preparation, retention in ways that other schools have never done before. I think what makes us really special is that we're a very diverse team. And I don't mean like racially and ethnically diverse. I think it's the people that we've brought in that are just simply creative, enthusiastic. They're mavens in this or that or another thing. And we've all kind of come together in a lateral hierarchy around this one mission and vision and purpose. We're also guided by our values of excellence, tenacity, healing, and kinship. And so in a lot of our branding, you'll see these colors kind of going through, and that's kind of what that means. And this is our team. I am tremendously fortunate to work with a team. This is our core team at OHSU, Northwest Native American Center of Excellence. 16 of our team members are American Indian. This doesn't exist anywhere else in the country to have this many American and Alaska Native core team members on an initiative like this at a US medical school. It doesn't exist. And so there's 19 federally recognized tribes that are represented across this group, and then the additional people are tremendous allies of the work that we're trying to do. It's very special what's going on at OHSU, and it's all because of the team that we've brought together, the experience that we have that not only lends us credibility when we're in the communities, but it's also our unique perspectives and understanding around how to do things differently in ways to achieve much better results. This is a map of the region. The one thing that sets our center apart is that when I started the center, I did not go to our dean, our provost, or our president first. I went to the tribes first because it didn't matter what I wanted to do, and it didn't matter what the School of Medicine or the institution OHSU wanted to do. It mattered what the tribes wanted. If they didn't want a center, if they didn't want a health workforce development center at OHSU, then why build it? Because if those are the folks I'm supposed to be serving and working for and ultimately training their citizens to become health professionals, if they don't want it, there's no purpose in starting. And so I went to the tribes first. Met with their executive director of the Northwest Portland Area Health Board, who it's a governing body that is owned and operated by all 43 tribes of the Pacific Northwest. They have a person who's appointed as a delegate from each tribe. They come together and make decisions around health, research, clinical interventions, educational programming, et cetera, et cetera. So I requested a meeting. I didn't say, I want to meet with you. I requested, I said, would you be willing to meet with me at some point? A little bit later, he got back to me. We went out, I explained my situation. He said, okay, I'll think about this and I'll get back to you. And I waited, and I waited, and I waited. So about 6 months later, he came back to me and he said, I talked to everybody, we're in, and we'll partner. And this is what partnership would look like for us. And so we partnered with all 43 tribes of the Pacific Northwest, and then went to our dean and our president and our provost and said, want to do this thing, let's go for it. So we did. We identified 5 key moments along the pathway to becoming a health professional, where we heard and we have anecdotes from the community around, oh, there's a barrier here, or there's a bottleneck there, okay? But then we also took a deep dive into data that helped guide what we're doing. So we took story from the community and data from the educational system to identify these 5 moments and then create really specific interventions to try and either A, open up that bottleneck, or B, reduce the barriers. And this is what's made us tremendously successful. So we have some key programs, which I'll probably touch on later as we go through there. I think that the 2 I just want to call out real quickly is the Tribal Health Scholars Program and then the WIE's Post-Baccalaureate Pathway. Those have been complete national game changers. So if you think about the context of why we're doing this, billions and billions of dollars have been invested in the US health workforce and diversifying the US health workforce since 1980. I'm talking billions, and it has made no difference for American Indians, Alaska Natives. None, 0. This is a big challenge because there's all these resources that are meant to be this high tide lifts all ships. but it is not happening. We're actually going the wrong direction. And so the overall concentration or percentage of American Indian Alaska Natives in the US medical workforce has gone down by percent since 1980. Isn't that crazy? You invest billions of dollars to do something and it goes the wrong direction. It was time for something to change. And so what we did is we looked at a lot of the real deep nerdy dive into stuff. Basically, the number of applicants and matriculants over time. We've just seen some poor trends, right? It's just not going anywhere. This is the deep dive. I won't bore you with the details. The peak that we had though of applicants and matriculants was in the mid 90s, 95 and 96, and we're trying to get back there. But as you can see, almost 0.4% of all matriculants in 1980 were American Indian, and right now it's like 0.16%. Like it's gone the wrong direction. So we're trying to change that. So another thing we've also done too is we realized that OHSU cannot be the only place to do this. If you look at the country as a whole, if you take the rosiest interpretation of that previous data, it'll take 106 years to reach the parity of the US population for American Indian Alaska Natives in medical school. 106 years from now, we might hit, 1.9 or 2.9% of the population. And so I realized that even if OHSU has a tremendous amount of success, it's such a big problem that we need to bring more people along with us. And so what I've done is I've applied for funding and supported programs at both Washington State University College of Medicine as well as UC Davis School of Medicine to build almost identical or very similar programs that are happening at OHSU with them. This is not a typical way of doing things. When this grant went in to the central routing office, I got a call. And the call said, Dr. Broad, are you certain that you want to be sending this percentage of these federal grants with this indirect rate to these other partners? I said, yes. Are you positive that you want to be sending this high of a percent of these federal grants with these indirect rates to the tribes and to these other two medical schools? I am positive. There's only one way to make a difference in this space, and truly that's together. It's not hoarding resources. It's not trying to make yourself the shiny house on the hill. It's truly a lateral effort if we're going to make a difference. And that is us in action with money, like real federal money to make this happen. One program I want to talk about real quickly is Y-East. Y-East medicine, in short, is this. It's a 10-month rigorous post-baccalaureate pathway designed specifically for citizens of federally recognized tribes who apply to medical school, didn't get in, but are just on the cusp. And what we looked at the data with AAMC is we helped AAMC look at 22 years of their medical school applicant and matriculant data. We identified a smoking gun. American Indian Alaska Natives who had graduated high school, gone to college, graduated college, taken all the medical school prereqs, taken the MCAT, applied through the AMCAS, were applying to medical school once, drifting away, never applying again after one failed attempt at applying to medical school. Every other race and ethnicity, it's like 4.4 attempts before they say, I'm not going to do this anymore. But it was one for American Indians, Alaska Natives. And so what we did is we developed this real specific initiative at a terminal phase that represented a fracture right before getting into medical school. We said, if you complete this program that's rigorous for 10 months, come to our campus and learn from our faculty, achieve the MCAT score that's necessary, you will earn conditional acceptance into our school. Oh, by the way, it's not going to cost anything. We'll provide you a living stipend. And it's been a game changer. This is the one where we also expanded Washington State University and UC Davis College of Medicine. Huge impact. And when you talk about impact, I mentioned that I'm kind of into like entrepreneurial things. So when I think of impact on rural tribal communities, I think of the economic and social impact a lot of times. And so we did a social return on investment impact study with a think tank here in Portland called Econ Northwest. They have all these like really fancy, you know, what do they call them? Multipliers and these mathematical modeling that shows like basically how much money or like revenue is generated by having certain jobs in certain communities across the state. So we did this with them based on real results we're having at the Y-East pathway and placement into rural communities across Oregon. We found that the conservative estimate is that for every dollar we spend in Y-East has about $1,000 return on investment for a tribal community per year. And this is with about 30% of the students actually ending up and working in that community. If over time it is more, then that impact goes even more and more and more. One thing that people don't realize is that the tribes in Oregon, if you combine all 9 of the federally recognized tribes in Oregon, they have a larger impact, a larger economic impact on the state of Oregon than Nike, which is the largest apparel company in the world. And so when you talk about tribal communities in rural Oregon, they're the top employer in their counties where they exist. They're the #1 revenue generator for that community and county where they exist. And so working directly with them has been a real benefit for us because they don't care for only American and Alaska Native people in these communities. They care for the people that are in their community. They care for the people that work for them. You know, so if there's a large, you know, hospitality or economic enterprise or something like that, they get insurance through the tribe. All of the tribal insured people go to the clinic and stuff like that. So it's really a profound way of providing healthcare. And so what we're functionally doing is showing that if you're an American Alaska Native person who trains in medicine and can live and work in a community, this is the economic impact we have on a rural Oregon community as of 2021. So when we think about Y-East pathway and the applicant workshop, this is our impact from the country of where we're drawing applicants from. It's not just Oregon. It's not just the Pacific Northwest. It is, by and large, most of the country where there still are a substantial number of American Indians. Here's a little facty. Where in the country is the highest number of American Indian people? Does anybody know where that would be? A good guess. Where in Arizona? Yeah, that's a high concentration. What about the highest number? Where do you think the highest number of American Indian Alaska Native people live? New York City. The highest number of American Indian Alaska Native people of anywhere in the country live in New York City. So most American Indian Alaska Native people in the country, it's like 70% of us do not live on reservations anymore. So it's New York, LA, Chicago, San Francisco, Houston, Texas, you know, places like that. Highest concentration, it's going to be places like Phoenix, it's going to be places like Anchorage, Alaska, and then also really high populations. And so the tribes that are the largest are Navajo Nation, as was mentioned, but then also Cherokee Nation. I like to think that I'm from one of the largest tribes, but we're split between Canada and the US. So our numbers are cut in half. But if our numbers weren't cut in half by that northern border, we've had tremendous success. 75% have matriculated into a health professional degree program. 72% have matriculated in medical school. Our cohort 6 is actually finishing up in a few weeks, and our results in this have far, far surpassed our hopes and dreams. Based on data, we thought that the best result we could get, based on educational data from the last 50 years, we thought the best result we could get in our post-bac pathway was 40% would matriculate into medical school. And right now we're creeping towards 80% of our participants. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. We are seeing students who, not from Y-East, but from people that we started working with as soon as they were in medical school. Once we started the center, because we work with medical students and residents. Now, what you guys might not know is here at Providence, and I'm going to out him a little bit, there's someone who's a citizen of the Confederated Tribes of Umatilla Indian Reservation, and he's also a descendant of the Grand Ronde tribe, matched in dermatology, but is doing their transition year here at Providence. It's the first American Indian to match in dermatology that anybody knows of in over 3 decades in this country. Providence is part of this story now. And what's really cool is that student is from, or that resident who's here now, is from a rural Oregon community. And that resident has already done research and built like an outreach mechanism for providing dermatology care to rural Oregon, not just tribal communities, but like rural Oregon around immunologic dermatologic conditions. They have built there's like a Mercedes Sprinter van system that they're doing. And they're able to, they developed some sort of these stickers that you can put on a nevus, as well as a little lens that clips onto an iPhone or an Android phone. So it takes a picture of the nevus, and then you do a sticker at the same time, and then you send it in through the mail. And they're doing like real honest to God cancer prevention and cancer screening in rural Oregon through these apps and through these technologies. Amazing stuff. Anyway, and that's part of the Providence story now. I digress. This has been fun. So this is what's happening at OHSU. The reason I show this picture is this work takes time. It's a 7 to 13 year cycle, and everybody that invests in something wants results now. So what we did when we invested in this was we did a cluster hire for American Last Native people. 2017, we launched the center. Once the tribes are willing and excited about it to partner, then I went to the leadership when we started the center. And since then, we have been on a rocket ship. When we hit 60 American Last Native students, that's when we'll be at steady state. So it'll be like 12 to 14, something like that per year, 15 medical students for American Last Native per year. And that'll functionally be like 10 or 12% of the population of the country of American Last Native medical students across the country. This is what's been happening. And what I think the greatest difference is that when we first started the program, it was really novel to have a Native student in your class or have a Native resident or the post-bac students. And now it's normal to see American Indian faculty, see American Indian students as part of the classes and things like that and the coursework. That's been a lot of fun. This is our reach. We've helped fund programs in Washington and California, and then we also run the Tribal Health Scholars program with tribes all the way across the region. What is also very similar about this picture is this is where Providence has their largest footprint too, if I'm not mistaken. So our region of trying to do health workforce development completely mirrors where Providence has their impact and has their footprint across the Pacific West and Alaska. This is where we started, this is where we're at, and this is where we're going. So we launched first in medicine, it went well, 2 other medical schools came on board, and then last year we achieved some legislated funding, so both federal and state legislated line item funding. That's allowing us to expand these efforts into dentistry, nursing, pharmacy, and public health within OHSU. And our 2 partner schools are launching their own independent programs, which was the idea from the start. And so we seed funded for 5 years. They had to get things together and organize, get a faculty, get a system, get a program, develop their recruitment efforts, identify funding, make it happen, and it's happening. So Weiss Dentistry within OHSU comes spring 2025. The nursing one I think will actually be about the same, I think it's this fall, the nursing one starts. This is crazy. And then Huehueduck launched at with UC Davis and Humboldt. There's a college up in Humboldt County in Northern California where they're launching a post-bac around this work. Another really exciting thing that we're working on right now is some of you guys may have heard of this, the Summer Health Professional Education Program. It's the most prominent summer enrichment program in health in the country. It's sponsored by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation and AAMC and ADIA. They've been running it since 1989. Over 5,000 alumni have graduated from medical school, over 5,000 alumni have graduated from dental school. And they've been trying for 15 years to increase American and Alaska Native participation, and it didn't work. And so this past year, they came to us and said, here, if we give you this amount of money, will you please pilot a site here and see if you can do something about it? So we're doing that. And that's a really huge win for Portland and the community and Native students across the region. So we'll be launching that very soon. All of this stuff I've been talking about is kind of ethereal, and it's numbers and it's charts and it's fancy pictures and bright colors, whatever. This is what it looks like, okay? These are American and Alaska Native students who collectively were rejected by more than 109 medical schools. Yet after a 10-month program, this is where they graduate. They're going off to medical schools, be it OHSU, UC Davis, WSU, WashU, University of Minnesota, Stanford, North Dakota, Michigan State, you just name it. And then also we've got a couple residents that graduated that are in there. Portland itself has gotten really excited about this. And so Pendleton is a woolen mill that's based here in Oregon. And we work with Pendleton, and they developed a fund called the Pendleton Community Fund. And so they took the product that they have the most success with globally, and now they provide a percentage of those sales of that product collection now goes to our center through the Pendleton Community Fund. And that is like those kind of like ideas and recognition and willingness to partner to make sure this stuff sustains long-term is exciting. And then the students also are all wrapped and honored with Pendleton blankets at the end of the time there. But this is what it looks like. And then right here, woo, Providence transition internal medicine resident right now. Dr. Smith, does anybody know him? Yeah, where is he? Dr. Smith. I'm gonna get a hold of you. Anyway, super proud of him, and he's doing cool stuff. Hopefully he's watching online. Hopefully he isn't turning too red either. I'll end with this. This is the dream, and this is what this looks like. This is a leader at Nike who is a citizen of the Klamath Nation, who is bringing her daughter to the Nike Beaverton OHSU clinic to meet their provider for the first time. Their daughter is a citizen of the Klamath Nation. The student who was working there that day, who got to go out and introduce himself to this family when she's establishing care at the clinic, is also a citizen of the Klamath Nation. Right there, that moment, that little girl's mind and her future possibilities were just blown wide open, because she saw somebody who was from her community, who has her perspectives and her background, who was going to be her doctor that day. She doesn't have to wonder ever if it's possible for her to become a doctor one day. She's seen who she can become one day if she wishes. That's what we do at NACO. It's about creating opportunities and possibilities and accelerating those things for Native youth to be the future health leaders tomorrow. And I think that's it. What questions do you guys have? Yeah. So the question was, can you share what you do in the 10 months of the YEAS post-baccalaureate pathway? The YEAS post-bac pathway, it's about 20 hours of hands-on curriculum. Really focused on two core components of basic sciences that's taught by the OHSU School of Medicine, basic science thread leaders. The thread leader of the whole basic science of OHSU School of Medicine is actually the curriculum leader of YEAS, which makes it great. And so the professors who teach those courses in basic science are the ones who also teach it in YEAS. And it is hard. It is not for the faint of heart. We also offer a very in-depth anatomy and physiology coursework. And I think beyond that, there's this other element, which is called Indigenous Health and Wellness, which really leans into the strengths and resilience and cultural aspects of being an American Alaska Native health professional, student, and learner. And then the last thing is really dedicated MCAT preparation. It still remains to this day the biggest barrier for entry into medical school is a passing score in the MCAT, and those are the things that we do to reduce those barriers. Yeah. It's not rocket science, but it far exceeded our expectations, and we're trying to figure out still what that is. And we think it's something to do with a cohort effect that has happened, because when we got too big, it didn't work as well. And now that we've like ratcheted it down a little bit, our percentages of matriculation have like gone back up. But we're trying to figure that out still. Does that answer your question? Yeah. What other questions do you guys have? Anybody from virtual? And then,
Do you have any work on, you mentioned the high school?
Yeah.
Any work you're doing there to just kind of create the?
yeah, so we have, there's a bunch of like outreach programs that we have. We utilize digital and social media unlike any other group in the country in this space. So we partner with American Indian Science and Engineering Society, partner with We Are Native, We Are Healers, the Northwest Partner Health Board, and us. And I'm not kidding, it's like, I think we reach like 50,000 American Indian youth a week through these applications and these messages, whether it's like texting with them directly through a big automated platform, we can actually respond real time through social media and things like that. That's like the big net, right? But then Tribal Health Scholars is a program that we're running here that's supported by the Roundhouse Foundation as well, where the community and the school helps us identify up to 5 American Indian Last Native youth who are in the junior and senior year of high school who have the aptitude for a health career. And then it's a 19-week curriculum, it's paid externship that happens during the school year. And what we're seeing with that group is that people who were potentially at risk of not graduating from high school graduate, go on to college, stay in our pathway, stay in our program. So I talked about like a 7 or a 13-year process to reach maturity. We just had some of the people who are from that original cohort 1 and cohort 2 of our high school program go through Y East Medicine, applying to medical school, applying to dental school, like through the application preparation programs. So it's working, which is really powerful. And this is not a good thing that I'm going to share here. There has never been an American Indian or Alaska Native from certain tribes in Oregon who have gone to our medical school, right? So certain tribes have never had one of their citizens go to one of our medicals, like our medical school or dental school in the state. That's changing real fast because of this program that's happening in the community. So, yeah. Yeah, you guys are so serious. Yeah. Yeah, I would say one thing that's odd about being an American Indian or Alaska Native in medical school is medical schools say, yes, we want to train you to become a doctor if you go back and work in your community, in your Indian Health Service clinic, not in a clinic near your community, in the Indian Health Service clinic in your community. And that narrative is really hard because what if someone isn't supposed to be a pediatrician? What if someone isn't supposed to be a family medicine doctor? What if their skills and aptitude is to be, I don't know, the next great GI doctor at Providence, right? Like, what if that is their skill set? And so what we do is we completely take all of those narratives and just go like that. And our goal is to help somebody achieve their greatest potential, whatever that is. That looks like someone becoming the first American Indian to match in dermatology in this country in over 3 decades. That looks like people matching at rural family medicine programs where they're close to tribal communities where they want to go back and work one day. That looks like people training to become cardiology. The cardiologist, we have someone who, from Y East who's doing this expanded cardiology research, extra 2 years and stuff like that. Like, it's amazing if you don't limit somebody what's possible. Do we promote service to tribal communities? Yes. Why? Because that's what the students want. Almost categorically, all of them want to serve tribal communities one way or another. But it doesn't have to be as a family medicine doctor or a pediatrician working for the Indian Health Service. It could be as a cardiologist, it could be as a interventional radiologist, it could be as a dermatologist doing outreach with tribal clinics and tribal communities or tribal infrastructure across the country, right? We're trying to just really change the narrative around that. Does that answer your question? Yeah, and you had a question too? Yeah. Huh? So you can support by being an amazing health system. You can support by being a place where when our students are ready to match, you are excited about training them like you have with Dr. Smith. I think as an organization of Providence, you know, maybe this isn't a discussion for this room, but I think the footprint of our program and who we intend to serve is the exact same footprint of the institution and the organization of Providence if you look at the region, right? We're a workforce development center that has training the people that have the highest likelihood of going back and practicing in those areas. I don't know, maybe there's a workforce angle there and a way to support it as an institution. Is that, or what was your role here? What do you do? You're a nurse educator? Take our nursing students, get involved. We're launching a nursing pathway. Be an amazing system that will hire them and allow them to flourish in their career as nurses, right? If you find out about American Alaska Native people who are interested in nursing, let us know. We will train them. They will work for you one day. Literally, we're launching the program in this fall for nurses. Yeah. Next question.
Family medicine. And hands as heights.
Yeah, I'm one of the co-investigators on that grant to launch the Three Sisters Family Medicine Residency in Madras. They're going to be launching in Madras and doing outreach clinic or a real specific clinical. They haven't decided yet. I do not think there will be a person or a resident that's actually in Warm Springs. I think that was the plan, but I don't think that's going to happen. What we have is and I think I mentioned this to you earlier, we have Dr. Katie Martin is Associate Director of our program. She's also an internal medicine doc, used to be the chief resident of the University of Washington's internal medicine residency, who does a lot of UME and GME electives and rotations. We've been partnering fiercely with GME programs across the state and the region to provide real specific educational opportunities for residents working with tribal communities. So from a GME level, that is something that we're working with people who are not even affiliated with OHSU programming. But I think we were working with at one point up to 30 residency programs from Sacramento all the way up to Portland. That space. And yeah, we're trying to figure out ways to, I guess my perspective, so I trained at Providence in Seattle. And the reason I went to that program is because it was one of the best family medicine training programs in the country at the time. We were doing things in residency that people are just starting to do now. And I graduated in 2009. Right? We used to do this thing at the neuro hospital up there, and this is getting nerdy, but we used to have this procedure where someone would come in with a completely debilitating stroke. And if you went to any other hospital, they'd say, nope, just let it progress. You're gonna have to do a ton of rehab. I'm really sorry this happened. But up there, even like 24 hours after the stroke, we were going in, and I wasn't. The interventional, neurologists or neurosurgeons were going in and pulling out these little emboli that were causing strokes, just massively debilitating strokes. And all the data and all the research at that time said, don't do that. You're way outside the window or whatever. But when you see somebody walk out of the hospital, like 3 weeks later, who was completely debilitated from their stroke a few weeks before that, like we were doing that stuff up there. And I went to that program because it was like the leading edge, so that one day I could, provide that kind of care My goal at the time was to work in a tribal community somewhere. Plans changed. I'm here. I still work in a tribal community a little bit, but I think training GME and some of the, I want American Indian students to get in the best residency programs, period. I don't want people to go to ones that are struggling. My perspective. That's my opinion right there. I want American Indian last name students to go to the best residency programs that they can. Yeah, question? Mm-hmm. 97% of the entire tribal health workforce across the country for physicians are non-native. They love and care for Native people. So we need non-native people to know how to work better with American Indian last name people. That's the goal. And if we can, and this may sound like a squishy goal, and I say this all the time. My goal in those programs, in those courseworks is for people to fall in love with working in tribal communities. Fall in love with it. And that's how you have people that end up working, there's one guy that just retired a couple years ago. He worked for 48 years in a tribal community in Oregon. He loved it, So that's my goal. And 97% of the workforce, physician workforce, is non-native. We need non-native people who love working with native people, who love taking care of my relatives, and will treat them with respect and listen to their stories with an open mind, right? And take excellent care of them. Are there any questions from online or not?
Yeah, and just time for one last.
Okay, sounds good. I'll stop.
The online question was just if you have aspirations for additional healthcare professions beyond what you're already doing, medical, dentistry, nursing.
So right now, if I said I was going to expand anymore right now, I think my team would remove me. But we're doing medicine, dentistry, nursing, pharmacy, school, public health. We're going to chill out on that for 5 years. But we have worked with dental health aid therapy programs, dental hygienists. We have worked with behavioral health aides, behavioral health aid therapists, things like that. I bet the next major move that we make, and I'm just throwing this into the universe, will probably be in paramedicine or pre-hospital medicine, where rural communities getting their health screening and cancer prevention, preventive vaccine, like vaccinations, all that kind of stuff from paramedicine, almost like an EMS type thing. I bet that'll probably be the next direction we go, especially given the trends in the country. I mean, by 2030, there's going to be over 30% of physician spots in rural America are going to be vacant. We're facing a big challenge, and so we need to start thinking creatively about other ways of doing stuff. Portland will be fine, Salem will be fine, but rural Oregon by 2030 will have a greater than 30% physician vacancy rate at all clinics, not just tribal health clinics, all clinics. And so thinking about other ways to provide care to people through those challenges.
Dr. Bro, thank you for.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah. Thanks for having me.